This is so much bigger than bot protection. It's the opposite, right? It inverts the way you think about this to say, my software is human only, and then I can decide how I want bots that are acting with a human backing them to behave on my platform and what access I want to give them.
It gives humans a way to be first-class citizens of the internet again. Welcome back. Our next guest is someone I'm really excited to chat with. We have Tom O, who is the Chief Product Officer at Vercel. Tom O, welcome to the podcast.
Mason, thank you for having me, man.
I think the most helpful thing from the listener perspective would be to give a quick overview of Vercel today and the agentic landscape in terms of how your product is being leveraged.
Yeah, so we describe Vercel as agentic infrastructure. It's kind of three parts to that. The first is that we're a great place for agents to deploy software. That goes for websites, web apps, and other agents. Exceedingly, agents are building other agents. Number two is we're a great place for you to build and run agents. And number three is Vercel itself, the platform, is agentic. So I like to describe it as sort of self-driving, but you used to take your software and put it into production and then sits there until you take new software and put it into production. But our goal is to make it so that whatever you put into production, it actually can self-improve. Something happens, there's an increase in errors or a spike in something, and we can automatically run an investigation, tell you what's going on, and even send pull requests to fix it for you. So those are kind of the three parts of agentic infrastructure is Vercel. Where we came from, we started out as the front-end cloud and wanted to make it really, really easy for teams to be able to focus on what they were building and not how it gets deployed and scaled and secured and how they observe it. We just kind of made this sort of batteries included control plane over all of your infrastructure. Auto scaling, that was something we called framework defined infrastructure. And now we're kind of moving into the agentic infrastructure era that I described.
And as you enable all of this agentic infrastructure, we increasingly move to a world where agents are doing more tasks on behalf of humans and sometimes on behalf of other agents. And so there's this core question of where does identity play into how humans interact with agents? And so it'd be great if you could frame up kind of the crux of the critical issue of why this is important and maybe how that led you to your partnership with World.
Yeah, sounds good. If you'll humor me for a few minutes, I want to build up some context first and kind of get there to the identity piece.
Suspense us.
Yeah. So, as the front end cloud, we started building more and more apps that were more and more sophisticated and leveraged AI. One of those apps we built was V0. And in building V0, we needed to build a bunch of new tools. We needed an AI SDK that abstracted away the differences between models because we were using new models are being released all the time, and we wanted to use them for different parts of our app without changing product code. We needed the AI gateway because we needed to centralize how everybody was accessing those models. We needed Sandbox for untrusted code execution and a handful of other things. We recently released something called the Chat SDK. But the most recent addition is a primitive that we call workflows, Vercel workflows, and then the open source workflow SDK. And this will connect to identity in a minute. The key claim to fame here for workflows is we're kind of doing for backends, so sophisticated backend, any type of work that you need to do on the server. We're doing the same thing for backends that React did on the front end. I use this analogy a lot. I helped create React, so I'm a little bit biased, but React made it so you could take really sophisticated UI front-end business logic, and you could encapsulate it into a single component. And then that component could be reused across your app. It could be used across many apps, but that component boundary made it really composable and really modular and reusable. What Workflows is doing is the same thing for really sophisticated backend logic, including logic that is asynchronous or requires a long-running job or critically requires a human in the loop. And so now we've sort of arrived at World ID and this proof of human. In order to build a system that leverages the backend associated with proving that someone is human, think about everything that has to happen here. The request comes in. We need to notify the human. They need to do something with their phone, pull it out. It needs to go talk to the sort of secure, on-device. Then it needs to call back to the server, provide some proof. Like this is a whole asynchronous workflow. And if you're manually building a service that does this, you have to implement things like retries. You have to implement observability for each of these steps. You have to handle like reentrance and durable state and all these other things. And so if we wanted to introduce something like proof of human to agents without something like workflow, there's just a lot of error prone work to do. But the workflow SDK makes this dead simple. It's literally one line of code. You just await and then call the function. So we really think that the combination of all of these things together are the sweet spot for developing and running agents. And like Vercel is the center of gravity of a lot of this that's happening. So the partnership with World ID was so exciting for us because this is the perfect poster child use case for workflows with this asynchronous, sophisticated backend tasks. You know, I'm very excited to roll out more of this type of. I want to create an entire ecosystem, really, of like these backend concerns that now can be really high quality and reused across apps, just like Proof of Human.
Right. And help us imagine the future for a bit. So we're moving towards a world where you're going to have more agent actions. But like you said, there may be certain actions where you want a human in a loop or a agent that, has the backing of a human to kind of like approve that task. And so as you think towards this world where, you want a human in a loop or you at least want a verified human, what are like the types of use cases that you're excited about or how do you think that evolves in the next couple of years?
So when we first started talking to the team, the obvious one was I hate CAPTCHAs. We did a whole thing at our conference last year about how
I'm so
terrible
bad at them
CAPTCHAs are.
nowadays. I feel like they
Yeah.
get me.
It's like, come on, like computers can't do this for sure, but I can barely even do this. This is the stupidest way to verify that I'm a human. It just feels archaic, right? So that was the obvious use case. But I think as we've been seeing more and more sophisticated approaches to this, like everybody's trying to build some version of bot detection, bot scoring, bot ID, all these things. I think the easier route is to say, look, let me just default to I only allow humans. And so there's a whole host of things where I really only want to allow humans. And we saw the concert ticket purchase, we saw sneaker drops, we saw all of these, like the use cases around I'm building software where I need to verify that I'm talking to a human on the other end. And like, as we started talking to the team, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than bot protection. It's the opposite, right? It inverts the way you think about this to say, my software is human only. And then I can decide how I want bots that are acting with a human backing them to behave on my platform and what access I want to give them.
It gives humans a way to be first-class citizens of the internet again.
That's right. Yeah, that's a really good way of framing it. And what's really interesting is like over time, we're going to want to actually differentiate the experiences that we offer to humans versus bots. And we're going to want to provide trust scores based on, what some human that's responsible for 100 agents is doing with those other bots, right? And so I think this proof of human gives us this opportunity to say like, yeah, okay, I have 5 bots doing things and they're all doing good things. These are all good actors, but there's this one thing over here. It's like, should I trust this person? So I was I was like, what metaphors you guys use? And like the Uber star rating thing kind of comes up for certain actions that are really high cost actions that you want to really protect. Having proof of human is going to be just a paramount capability.
Yeah. And if you're a developer and you want to leverage this, proof of personhood, how can you do that today?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to do it is there's an NPM package that you can just import into a workflow, and it's one line of code. So we'll share more about that on the workflows website and on the World ID developer docs and things. I think that's the easiest way to get started, and there's a bunch of other ways to leverage it as well. But certainly, unbiased Workflow SDK is the best way.
Amazing. Well, Tomo, thank you for joining us and sharing more about this partnership.
Absolutely, Mason. Thank you for having me.